Hello, mabuhay, bienvenidos. Welcome to another episode of the First World Manila podcast. First World Manila, the brand that makes learning about the Philippines and Manila's long-term economic development, urban planning, and cultural revitalization interesting to a larger audience. Think of it as a brand that makes learning and civic responsibility aspirational, or as I like to call it, aspirational advocacy. My name is Ramon Rodrigo Calo Cuenca, CFA, and I'm the founder and director of First World Manila. And welcome to the podcast. Okay, let's see. Today, before I start, I just want to say this is going to be, I think, a short episode. I'm quite busy. I'm relaunching my international brand. That's a story for another time. And I'm quite busy. I would also like to say thank you everyone for the 100 plus Facebook subscribers. If you look me up, First World Manila, look it up on Facebook and subscribe if you haven't done so already. That's not a lot in absolute or relative terms, but the engagement rate for my content on Facebook, including this podcast, is quite high. So the normal standard, I believe the industry standard is more or less like 1% Facebook engagement rate. So that's like post clicks or likes or comments or shares. Um, and mine generally averages somewhere between 3 to 12%. And that's even with like, even if it gets seen like 1,000 people, like if a post gets seen by 1,000 people, the engagement rate for First World Manila is 3 to 12%. So it's pretty good overall. So I'm pretty happy with that. I would rather have initially, lower, maybe not so many subscribers, but the ones that do subscribe are very engaged with my content. So I think it's more important than just like, going just purely for views for when you build a brand online. Because, I mean, like cat videos are like, they have millions of views, for example, but doesn't mean people are really engaged or deeply engaged with your product, or your brand. So this is a very good sign for this brand, First World Manila. So again, thank you everyone. Also, there have been 300 plus podcast plays, so um, it's good. I mean, the this podcast is still very small, and I don't expect it to be a huge part of First World Manila, but I know it's kind of a deep cut for most people. But for those of you who have been consistent in listening, thank you so much. It means a lot to me, and I'm glad you enjoy me talking at length about these issues. Just because most people don't. That's why the videos, like the short 1 minute videos I post on Facebook, are super important because for people who are either busy or have a shorter attention span, that's better for them. But for you guys and girls who are listening on this to this podcast, which I mean, it generally ranges from like 10 to like 30 minutes at most long. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to talk briefly about. Oh yeah, wait, sorry, excuse me. Before I talk about one more thing, before I talk about the subject, um, I did talk. Sorry, excuse me. I um, I attended a talk last Thursday at a co-working, not a co-working, an entrepreneur startup event. It was a talk hosted by Bill Luz, who is the outgoing chairman of I believe the Philippine Competitiveness Council. So trying to make the Philippines a more uh, competitive place with regards to sort of global rankings. And he was talking about he wanted to interface with the private sector to make sure that it's the Philippines is a place where it's easier to get business done, and that's kind of a longer talk I want to talk about next week because that's kind of at length. So prepare yourself next week for a longer podcast. So okay, that's that. Okay, so today's episode is about too many malls. Earlier today I was on my way to see a client coming from the south, so from Alabang, and I was going to Green Hills in the north, and of course I had to pass Edsa, and I was supposed to go there at a certain time and be there at a certain time, but I was stuck in Edsa for like an hour and a half, just Edsa. So the moment I got off the Skyway, got off at Magallanes, it was there was so much traffic, and I was stuck there for an hour and a half. And it was bad, and to the point where I kept, the traffic was kind of moving very slowly. It would be like stop and go. So my clutch, because I kept, uh, pressing on the gas pedal, but also braking at the same, like almost the same time, almost simultaneously, that the transmission was overheating in my car. Like that's how ridiculous that was. And yeah, I was late for my meeting, but fortunately it wasn't a big deal. So that it went well, but still, it's ridiculous. Like almost 2 hours just on Edsa, right? And it's funny because the northbound traffic jam started in Magallanes, but it it ended at Mega Mall. So the moment I passed Mega Mall, there was like no traffic. Like there was seriously like only like a handful of cars on the road that were still going northbound. How crazy is that? So it got me thinking about a question I had posted on my personal Facebook page. Like, I actually crowdsourced what people thought. Or do you think there are too many malls in this city? Because obviously it might be true that Mega Mall is, or those malls like clustered in that area, like Podium, Shangri-La, etc., in that Ortigas area, are part of the problem that's causing a lot of traffic. So it got me thinking, are there too many malls? And of course, it's kind of a simplistic question. Like someone did reply to me in a comment saying that is it a question of too many malls or where they're located, which is obviously probably a better way to frame the problem. Why are there these huge malls located in like the main, like the artery of this entire city, Edsa? So it's something that I want to talk about today. So this is going to be an episode on urban development. Um, so the first thing I want to find out is it really the malls that are causing this problem? And there's actually some evidence recently that it's not just the number of cars on the road. It's like things like these malls. So there's an article here in the Inquirer, like it came out January of this year. Let's see. I'm going to minimize my camera here so you guys can see that website. Adjusted mall hours effective in easing EDSA traffic, according to the MMDA. So that's the headline. Look it up. And as usual, I will leave links in the description of this episode. So there is some evidence, according to the MMDA, that what happened was the MMDA. Okay, I'm just going to read. It's better if I just read the article straight up because it's sort of better. It's a better way for you to understand it. But the background here is that the MMDA asked the malls to adjust operating hours implemented during the holidays. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to read some passages from this article now. In a Radio Inquirer report on Saturday, MMDA spokeswoman Celine Pialago said they urged mall operators to maintain the adjusted mall operating hours of 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., which was implemented during the holidays. Pialago said that this was part of the government's proposed traffic reduction measures in Metro Manila. Last October, the MMDA said mall operators agreed to open late and hold nighttime deliveries for non-perishable goods to reduce the volume of traffic on EDSA from October 15 to January 15 amid the holiday season. During the implementation of the mall's late opening hours, Pialago said there had been an increase in travel speed by about 30 minutes, not only on EDSA but also in other major roads. According to the data provided by the MMDA Public Information Office, the average travel speed on EDSA increased by 9.29% from 17.44 kilometers per hour in September to 19.06 kilometers per hour in November. So there's actually some measured evidence that the malls do have a role to play in traffic in EDSA, is what I'm trying to say with this by citing this article. Okay. And here's another, this is an op-ed from June, earlier this month, June 4. Actually, you know what? By the time I launched it, this is July. It's July already. Okay, so last month, June 4, this is an op-ed from Philippine Star, Carmageddon as usual. So I just want to read some passages here. In the US and some other countries, the largest shopping complexes are also located outside the city center. In the Philippines, shopping malls serve as the city center, with several now hosting even certain government satellite offices. Some countries have developed government centers away from university towns and large shopping outlets. In our case, ever since the Philippines became a country, Manila has always been the seat of government, commerce, culture, and education, with all the jobs and livelihood opportunities that they engender. So, again, it's a question of planning. Why did we just squeeze everything into Metro Manila? And one reason, in my opinion, is because there's no continuity in terms of the bureaucracy or planning between different administrations. I mean, my understanding is that even in past administrations that were already planning for, rises in population, nothing was really done, or could be done. And obviously, that's sort of there's a deeper problem with our bureaucracy and our culture that doesn't allow long-term planning to be executed over the longer term, which is obviously one purpose for the existence of First World Manila, my brand, is to make these issues or these problems um, more of a popular issue with the general public in the public sphere. Okay. To be fair, the government this current administration has been moving some government offices to Clark. If you recall my podcast back in April about the Metro Manila subways, the Undersecretary of Railways, TJ Batan, actually was late for his talk because because he was coming from Clark and he just got stuck in traffic. So there's definitely a move to move at least the government agencies out of Metro Manila. So and apparently according to this Business World article published in May 7 of this year, there are six more government agencies to move to what's going to be called New Clark City. So that's the plan, and I do have faith that the administration and the government can get it done because they've already had a few successes under their belt. So hopefully this move to Clark represents sort of a secular trend that happens even beyond the current administration. Again, long term, long term, long term, long term. I repeat myself like a broken record. Okay, so but then again, there's not one simple solution to this problem because even if you have this New Clark City, like, is it going to be easy to get to, et cetera, et cetera. So that there's always the question of infrastructure, and then, which I talked about. Excuse me, not yesterday, last podcast about the problems with building out infrastructure, the right-of-way problems, for example. So that for me, in my opinion, that's going to be hard. Um, but I think, you know what, I'm optimistic about New Clark City in another sense too. Like theoretically, if more of these agencies are moved over there and more people move over to New Clark City, that theoretically, assuming all the things get done, like there are proper roads built out, assuming all that the Metro Manila itself would be decongested. So that is the big, that's what those are the sort of the big hopes I'm pinning on this new development here. And it's not just about traffic. For those of you who have been listening for the past few episodes, I'm very big on on bringing back Intramuros and Escolta. So maybe if more people move out of Manila proper, then we can, there'll be space to really just, tear everything down and start again, or keep a few things, obviously, like our infrastructure. Excuse me, not our infrastructure, our heritage buildings in that area, but obviously rebuild the rest and rebuild it like it was supposed to be rebuilt after World War II, and make it accessible too, accessible by road, which is not the case. Even then, I want to add one more thing, which is that why don't we, if we get to move people out to New Clark City, maybe we can do that's an overall for me, like just thinking, from a very broad perspective, that's sort of an opportunity to do this sort of massive reorganizing of Metro Manila, and I think one part of that includes maybe tearing down like some of these malls that are right across Edsa because they're obviously causing a lot of traffic. I'm not saying get rid of these malls entirely, but maybe relocate them. But obviously that comes along with like a, major urban planning and redevelopment, which would take, I'm, let's be conservative here. That would take years. But who cares? Like if we all see the goal at the end, if the goal is in sight, we can go and reach for it and make it a reality. So this is something I want to continually monitor, sort of the building of New Clark City, then the movement of people over to that area, and hopefully the decongesting of Manila and theoretically the redevelopment of Manila over the longer term. And it's something my views are still developing on this as far as the details go, but it's something at least on a very broad perspective. Like I'm definitely for, and I think everyone should be. I think because we all want a nice, beautiful city. Maybe building up Clark and moving people there is the first step to really fixing Metro Manila to make it a first world Manila. All right, that is it for today's podcast. The Spanish-Tagalog vocab for today is AS, so sila for babae. So if you have a group of women, mga babae, right? Right, sila, right? That's AS. ELLAS, AS. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I will see you next week. If you like what you listen to, please consider subscribing. I'm also on Facebook, and the links, all the relevant links are in the description. Please do follow, and that's it. Cheers. Salud.